What if I told you that every single moment of unchecked stress is silently stealing something precious from you? Your memories, your attention, the very fabric of who you are. Because you see, stress is more than just a bad day. Chronic stress physically shrinks your brain, and if you don't take control of it, it might be too late. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Dr. Sujay Nair, a neurology resident, and in the next couple of minutes, I'm not only going to show you what stress does to your brain, but more importantly, I'm going to show you evidence-based strategies that will help you fight back. You see, to take back control of stress in your life, you need to understand first and foremost that stress is a tool that was designed by your own body. Imagine hundreds of years ago, you were just simply foraging in the forests, casually minding your own business and looking for food. But then all of a sudden, imagine a giant brown bear just pops up out of nowhere. What will happen? Well, the first thing that's going to happen is that your body will release a surge of a chemical called cortisol. And cortisol activates your body's fight or flight response. It activates a system called the sympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic nervous system has been specially designed to protect you at all costs. Because you see, in that moment when that bear just pops up, you can't afford to sit down and think about your decision. No, you gotta act right there in that very moment. And that's why your sympathetic nervous system kicks in, because it gets you into an instinctive acting mode. It tells you to either fight or get out of that situation as fast as you can. And so therefore you need to first understand that this stress response is a feature of your body. It's not a bug. When activated, this fight or flight response will cause a surge of activity of a special part of your brain called the amygdala. And the amygdala is actually like your fear center in the brain. And through the overdrive activity of the amygdala, you temporarily shut down two specific parts of your brain. One is the hippocampi, the two structures on the sides of your brain that are responsible for memory and learning. And two, it also decreases the activity of the CEO of your brain, the prefrontal cortex. This is the part of your brain that's in charge of making calculated decisions, self-control, discipline, all of which, yes, may be important in a instinctual kind of acting out situation, but in that moment, what your brain needs is more action than thinking and decisions. And so your prefrontal cortex temporarily goes into hiding. And so all that's left is this cortisol-driven surge of sympathetic nervous system activity, getting you ready to act in that situation, either allowing you to fight or to escape. This system was designed to protect you. But today, it's the very thing that's destroying you. Because you see, long ago, there might have been one or two giant threats in your day or maybe even your week, but that was it. And so your sympathetic system only kicked into gear very seldom. But today, what happens? You wake up in the morning and you're stunned by this barrage of notifications coming from your phone, your laptop, all sorts of electronic devices screaming at you for their attention. And then suddenly you're reminded of all these deadlines, all these things you have to do. You're told about a new thing that you have to worry about, and it's just worry after worry after worry that's being thrown at you from every single angle. And all this does is that it kicks your sympathetic nervous system into overdrive. It never gets a rest because your body keeps thinking, I'm always in trouble, when there isn't anything tangible to touch. And so you end up in this state where every single moment of the day you're just stuck in this never-ending cycle of worry and anxiety. And those parts of your brain that keep getting shut down, like the memory centers and your decision-making centers, just never get a chance to work. And so that's why when you're in a stressful situation, you just can't seem to remember anything that's important. Even something as simple as you forgetting where your keys were, or forgetting a phone number of your favorite loved one. All these little things start to add up because your body keeps thinking it's under threat. When this stress keeps lingering in your body, you get this persistent surge of cortisol flooding every single aspect of your life. And so what happens? The parts of your brain that are just not getting used enough anymore, like the hippocampi, your memory centers, your learning centers, the decision-making centers like your prefrontal cortex, they're going to get damaged by this chronic inflammation that stress causes on your brain. The connections to these centers are going to start weakening, and ultimately, with more and more neurons dying, your brain starts to physically shrink down. But don't worry, that's not the end of this story. Because you see, understanding what stress does to your brain already puts you back into the driving seat. So listen closely, because what I am about to show you are some of the most evidence-based, science-backed ways that you can start to use today to take control of the stress in your life and drastically reduce it. The first of the many things that you can immediately introduce into your life to drastically reduce your stress levels is actually a variation of the very thing we all do pretty much every single moment of the day: breathing, but more specifically, box breathing. This is actually an ancient technique that was practiced for centuries in South Asia and East Asia, and it's now been proven by scientific research. How it works is basically by taking a deep breath for about 4 seconds, then holding your breath for another 4 seconds, then exhaling for another 4 seconds, and finally holding your breath again for another 4 seconds. In other words, you create this box pattern of breathing of 4 seconds at a time for each action, and you just keep repeating this again and again and again for about 10 minutes, either once or twice a day, and that will do wonders to managing and reducing your stress levels. But why does it work? Well, it works because it actually activates a part of your body called parasympathetic nervous system, and as the name suggests, it's the opposite of the sympathetic nervous system. Because you see, if the sympathetic nervous system was designed to protect you and be your fight or flight response, the parasympathetic nervous system is the very opposite. It helps you rest, relax, and digest. It's the part of your brain and your body that helps you to calm down and relax. And this box breathing technique goes a long way to activating that system on a regular basis. And if you pair that with another powerful technique called mindfulness meditation, well, then you've got a recipe for the most calm day you can imagine. In fact, I think mindfulness meditation deserves a whole video on its own, and if you want me to create one video on that, let me know in the comments below. But the next most important thing that you can introduce into your life is good old regular exercise. Because you see, exercise isn't just there to keep you fit, it's like a magic pill for your brain. More specifically, it stimulates the release of endorphins, which are your body's natural feel-good hormones. Getting regular doses of these endorphins every single day will go a long way into overall reducing the cortisol levels in your brain. And more importantly, exercise actually stimulates the release of growth factors in your brain, more specifically BDNF, which plays a huge role in growing new neurons, especially in the metabolically active parts of your brain, such as your hippocampi, which, if you remember correctly, are the memory centers of your brain. So exercise directly reduces the effects of cortisol shrinkage on your brain by stimulating the growth of new neurons. But exercise on its own is not enough. You also want to change up your diet to increase foods rich in antioxidants, omega-3, and magnesium, because these foods directly reduce the inflammatory effects of cortisol on your brain. Foods such as fatty fish, blueberries, or green spinach all play a huge role in reducing the inflammation in your brain. Think of it as brain fuel, not just food. And zooming in on the magnesium, you see, magnesium actually is quite interesting in that it also directly inhibits the activity of cortisol in your brain, and it also stimulates the activity of a potent neurotransmitter called GABA. And GABA is that chemical that is one of the strongest chemicals that helps to calm and quieten your brain. But both breathing, exercise, and food would not be enough if you didn't also prioritize your sleep. In fact, I made a whole video right here on sleep and the powerful benefits of what a good quality sleep can do to the detoxing part of your brain called the lymphatic system. Check it out right after this video. All the toxic waste that builds up because of the inflammatory effects of cortisol and stress on your brain can be prevented if you prioritize good quality of sleep. And then we come to a powerful thing that you can also prioritize in your life: your social connection. Never underestimate just how much your family and your friends play a huge role in drastically reducing the stress levels in your life. Because at the end of the day, human beings are social creatures. Think about it. We're hardwired to be in social circles. I mean, if you had to encounter hundreds of years ago that brown bear in the woods, if you were in a group, you would be much more confident at taking on that bear or handling that situation. You would be much more calm in handling every single threat in your life. And that still is true today. Every single threat, every single problem in your life becomes so much more easier when you have a strong social community around you. So time spent with your loved ones is not just time well spent, it's also neuroprotective. So the next time you're having coffee with your family or your friends, tell them you're doing it to grow your brain. Because you see, stress in your life is ultimately inevitable, but letting stress take control of your life is not. Your brain is the command center of your life, of every aspect of your life. So if you don't take care of it, if you don't nurture it, if you don't protect it, the rest of the world will just shape it for you, and the stresses of the world will just shrink it down. So save this video and watch it again whenever you need a reminder, and join me on this journey into showing you how to build a better brain. Because when your brain is thriving, so does everything else. In fact, speaking of thriving and energy, here's a video you might enjoy about coffee and the effects it has on your brain, and whether it gives you energy or whether it steals your energy from your future self. I'll see you there.